Let me tell you something right now. If you are a Caitlin Clark fan, if you are an Indiana Fever fan, if you are somebody who has been watching this league grow because of what that woman has done for the sport, then you need to sit down and pay very close attention to what I am about to tell you, because what is happening right now behind closed doors in the WNBA is going to make your blood boil. I am not exaggerating. I am not being dramatic. The new collective bargaining agreement just dropped, and the math is about to make it nearly impossible for the Indiana Fever to keep the team together around Caitlin Clark. And if you think that is an accident, if you think the people who designed this thing were not fully aware of what they were doing to small market teams like Indiana, then I have a bridge to sell you. Let me set the stage for you. The WNBA just rolled out a brand new CBA, new salary cap, new rules, new everything. And on the surface, it sounds great, right? The salary cap jumped from $1.5 million all the way up to $7 million. Sounds amazing. Sounds like progress. Sounds like the players are finally getting paid. And look, I am all for the players getting paid. Every single one of them deserves more money. Caitlin Clark filled arenas across this country. She put eyeballs on television screens that had never watched a single minute of women's basketball. She generated revenue that this league had never seen before in its entire existence. So yes, pay the players. But here is the problem. Here is the thing that nobody is talking about. The way this CBA is structured, the way the numbers break down, it is designed in a way that is going to crush teams that are trying to build around their young stars. And guess which team has the youngest, brightest, most marketable star in the entire league? That is right. The Indiana Fever. Let me break down the numbers for you because the numbers do not lie. The new supermax contract in the WNBA is now a 20% cap hit. Let me say that again. 20% of your entire salary cap goes to one single player if you give them the supermax. Under the old CBA, it was about 16.5%. So they bumped it up. They bumped up the supermax way more than they bumped up the cap, relative to what teams actually need to spend. And what does that mean in real dollars? It means the supermax is now $1.4 million. One player. $1.4 million out of a $7 million cap. And you are required to carry 12 players on your roster now. 12. So you do the math. You give one player the supermax and you have $5.6 million left to pay 11 other players. That is already tight. But it gets worse. So much worse. Now let me talk about the New York Liberty for a second because their situation perfectly illustrates how broken this thing is. The Liberty have their big three. Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquel Jones. All three of them are eligible for the supermax. All three of them could get $1.4 million. Their general manager, Jonathan Kolb, went out there last September and said with full confidence that all three of them would be back in 2026. Full confidence. Well, Jonathan, how is that confidence looking right now? Because if you give all three of them the supermax, that is $4.2 million on three players out of a $7 million cap. That is 60% of your cap on three people. You still have to fill 9 more roster spots. That math does not work. It just does not work. And let me be real about something. Even if all three of them took a slight discount, say $1 million each instead of the full supermax, that is still $3 million. That is 42.9% of your cap on three players. You are left scrambling to fill out the rest of your roster with bargain bin players. This is why I am telling you right now, the era of the big three in the WNBA is over. Done. Finished. This is a Big Two league now. You get 2 stars and a bunch of role players, and you better hope those role players can ball because you cannot afford anything else. And I want to be clear about Breanna Stewart because she deserves every penny she gets. This woman signed for $28,000 in 2024. $28,000. That was roughly 13.8% of the team's cap at the time. If she took that same percentage in 2026, it would be about $968,000. And I am telling you right now, she is not signing for that. She is not. In 2025, she already signed for $40,000 less than the supermax. If she took the same proportional deal in 2026, she would be giving up $432,000. Are you kidding me? This is Breanna Stewart. This is one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. She was instrumental in making this new CBA happen. The idea that she would earn less than $1 million is absolutely insane. It is preposterous. She is getting paid and she should get paid. But that is exactly the problem. When your top stars rightfully demand top dollar, and the cap is structured the way it is, something has to give. And what gives is the middle class, the solid veteran players, the glue guys, the people who make championship teams actually work. This is the middle class squeeze, and it is coming for every single team in this league. The supermax rose way faster than the salary cap did. That is a fact. So the gap between what your stars cost and what you have left for everyone else just got way wider. Teams that want multiple stars are going to have to get creative. They are floating multi-year deals, extended contracts, all kinds of workarounds, and top free agents know this. They are out there right now seeking multi-year deals because they know the annual money might not be what they want, so they are looking for security, long-term guaranteed money. And that is smart on their part, but it creates an absolute nightmare for front offices trying to build competitive rosters. You are going to see a lot of awkward negotiations this offseason. You are going to see a lot of teams having uncomfortable conversations with players they love, players they want to keep, telling them that the money just is not there. And the fans are going to be confused. The fans are going to be angry. And rightfully so. Because from the outside looking in, it is going to look like these teams do not care about winning. But the truth is, they are handcuffed. They are trapped by a cap structure that forces them to make impossible choices. Now here is where I need you to really pay attention, because this is where it hits home. This is where the Indiana Fever situation goes from bad to catastrophic. Let me walk you through the Fever's cap math, and I want you to tell me if this makes any sense at all. You have Caitlin Clark. She is not even supermax eligible yet, but she is still on her rookie contract, and that contract is going to cost real money. You have Aaliyah Boston. You have Kelsey Mitchell. You have Lexie Hull. You have Sophie Cunningham. Let me just run the numbers on the starting five. Aaliyah Boston, and we will get to this in a minute because this is the bombshell nobody is talking about, could make up to $1.1 million. Caitlin Clark on her deal. Kelsey Mitchell, who deserves a big payday. And then you have your other starters. The quick math on the Fever's starting five comes out to roughly $4.43 million out of $7 million. That is over 63% of your entire salary cap eaten up by 5 players, and you still need 7 more players to fill out that roster. 7 more players and you have about $2.5 million to do it. How? How does that work? Somebody explain that to me. Because from where I am sitting, it does not work. It flat out does not work. And here's the part that really makes me want to throw something. The rookie contract escalation clause. This is the bombshell. This is the thing that absolutely nobody saw coming. When this CBA was being negotiated, when people were looking at the framework, nobody anticipated that rookie contracts would escalate the way they did. The WNBA threw in this clause, this escalation clause, that allows rookie contracts to shoot up way higher than anyone thought was possible. And the prime example of this is Aaliyah Boston. Her contract can escalate to $1.1 million. $1.1 million for a player on a rookie scale deal. That is insane. That is a number that blindsided everybody. The Fever did not see it coming. The league did not see it coming. Nobody saw it coming. And it completely changes the math for every team that drafted high in recent years. But especially for Indiana. Especially for the team that has Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston on the same roster. 2 young franchise cornerstones on rookie deals that are now suddenly eating up a massive chunk of the salary cap before you even get to your veteran free agents. And let me just emphasize how wild this is. You drafted these players. You developed these players. You are supposed to be rewarded for good drafting by having cost-controlled contracts that give you cap flexibility to build around your young talent. That is how it works in every other league. That is how it is supposed to work. But this escalation clause flips that entire concept on its head. Now your rookie contracts are not cost-controlled at all. Now your young players are costing nearly as much as established veterans. And the competitive advantage of drafting well just evaporated. Gone. Just like that. The CBA was ratified on Monday by unanimous vote of 90% of the players' union members, and it is still pending the Board of Governors' approval. But let me ask you this. When the Board of Governors looks at these numbers, when they see what this is going to do to teams like Indiana, are they going to push back? Are they going to ask for adjustments? Or are they just going to rubber stamp it and let teams figure it out on their own? I think we all know the answer to that question. And speaking of veteran free agents, let me tell you what is about to happen to the Fever's roster, because this is the part that is going to hurt. Kelsey Mitchell. Let me talk about Kelsey Mitchell for a second. This woman is one of the most electrifying scorers in the WNBA. She is instant offense. She can come off a screen and drain a three in your face before you even know what happened. She has been loyal to Indiana. She has been there through the tough years. She was there before Caitlin Clark. She was there when nobody was watching. And now, right when the Fever are supposed to be turning the corner, right when they are supposed to be building something special, the CBA math is making it nearly impossible to keep her. I think the Fever thought they were going to re-sign Kelsey Mitchell. I think they went into this offseason with a plan. And I think that plan just got blown to pieces. Because think about it. If your starting five is already eating up 63% of your cap, where does the money come from for Kelsey? Where does it come from? And here is the worst part. Other teams know this. They smell blood in the water. If you are an expansion team coming into this league, who do you go after? You go after Kelsey Mitchell. Instant offense, proven scorer, no drama, just pure basketball. She is the perfect player to build around if you are a new franchise trying to put butts in seats from day one. And if you are the Chicago Sky, a team that has been missing instant offense ever since Kalia Copper walked out the door, Kelsey Mitchell is sitting right there, available, ready to go, and without the salary cap headaches that come with trying to fit her into a roster that already has two expensive young stars. Subscribe to the channel right now, because I am not done. We are just getting to the good stuff, and I do not want you to miss a single thing. Tell me in the comments what you think about this CBA because I want to hear from you. And it is not just Kelsey Mitchell. Let me talk about Sophie Cunningham. Sophie has become one of the most recognizable players in the WNBA, and a lot of that has to do with playing alongside Caitlin Clark. The branding, the endorsements, the social media presence. Sophie Cunningham is a marketable player. She is somebody that fans connect with. And if you are an expansion team, if you are coming into a new market and you need to sell tickets and sell jerseys and get people excited, Sophie Cunningham is exactly the kind of player you target. She brings name recognition. She brings energy. She brings a fan base. And the Fever might not be able to afford to keep her. That is the reality of this cap situation. Players who helped build what Indiana is becoming might have to leave because the math simply does not allow them to stay. And then there is Lexie Hull. I have seen people out there saying Lexie is going to sign for the league average. No, she is not. Stop it. Lexie Hull is a solid player who has proven herself in this league, and she is going to command real money. My guess is she is going to get $700,000 to $800,000 from somebody. Maybe not Indiana. But somebody is going to pay her because teams are desperate for players who can contribute, and Lexie can flat out contribute. So where does that leave the Fever? It leaves them in a position where the players around Caitlin Clark, the players who made last season special, the players who turned that franchise around, might all be wearing different jerseys next year. And that is not because the Fever do not want them. It is because the CBA made it mathematically impossible to keep them all. Now look, I want to acknowledge one small silver lining because I am trying to be fair here even though this situation makes me furious. Teams are now required to carry 12 players, but roster spots 11 and 12 are designated as developmental spots, and they do not count against the salary cap. Okay, fine. That helps a little. That means you are really only fitting 10 players under the cap instead of 12. But come on, 2 developmental spots? That is supposed to make up for the fact that your starting 5 costs 63% of your cap. That is a band-aid on a bullet wound. It helps on the margins, but it does not solve the fundamental problem, which is that the structure of this CBA makes it incredibly difficult for teams with expensive young cores to build competitive rosters around them. And I keep coming back to this point because it is the most important point in this entire conversation. The supermax rose way more than the salary cap. That is the root of every single problem we have been talking about. When your highest paid players take up a bigger percentage of the pie than they used to, there is less pie for everyone else. It is that simple. And the teams that get hurt the most are the teams that have multiple players deserving of big money. Teams like Indiana, you have Caitlin Clark, who is the most popular player in the sport. You have Aaliyah Boston, who is a franchise cornerstone. You have Kelsey Mitchell, who is a proven all-star caliber player. Under a different CBA structure, you keep all 3 of them. You build a dynasty, you give the fans what they deserve. But under this CBA, good luck. The math says you pick 2 and pray the rest of the roster can hold it together. This is what I mean when I say the WNBA is now a Big 2 league. You get 2 stars. That is it. 2. And then you surround them with the best role players you can find with whatever money you have left. The days of having 3 all-stars on one team are over, and I think that was deliberate. I think the league looked at what was happening with super teams and decided they wanted more parity. And hey, parity is great in theory. But when it comes at the expense of teams being able to keep the players they drafted and developed, when it means that small market teams have to break up their core just when things are getting good, that is not parity. That is punishment. Think about what the Fever have been through. Years of losing, years of being at the bottom, years of nobody caring, nobody watching, nobody showing up. And then Caitlin Clark gets drafted and everything changes. The arena is packed, the ratings are through the roof, merchandise is flying off the shelves, the entire city of Indianapolis is energized. And now, right at the moment when it should all be coming together, the CBA math might force them to strip the roster down and start over. Not because they made bad decisions, not because they mismanaged anything, but because the rules of the game changed in a way that makes it nearly impossible for them to keep the band together. And I need to circle back to the Liberty situation for a second, because it proves my point even further. The Liberty are supposed to be the gold standard of this league right now. They are the champions. They have Brianna Stewart, who is the backbone of the new CBA Negotiations. They have Sabrina Ionescu, who is one of the most skilled guards in the sport. They have Jonquel Jones, who is an absolute force in the paint. And even the New York Liberty, with all their resources and all their market advantages, are looking at this CBA and sweating. Because the math does not care how big your market is. The math does not care how many sponsorship deals you have. The math is the math. And the math says you cannot give 3 players the supermax when the supermax is 20% of the cap. That is 60% on 3 players. You would have 40% left for 9 more players. That is roughly $444,000 per player. You are not building a championship roster paying role players $400,000 when the league average is going up and every team is competing for the same free agents. Now the Liberty have one tiny advantage. They have Leonie Febick, who is still on her rookie scale contract, so that helps a little bit with their cap flexibility. But it is still a nightmare. And if the Liberty, with all of their advantages, cannot make a big 3 work, what chance does Indiana have? What chance does any small market team have? That is the question nobody in the league office wants to answer. And do not even get me started on the expansion teams. New teams are coming into this league with money to spend and no existing commitments. They can go out and cherry-pick the best available free agents from teams that are cap-strapped. They can offer Kelsey Mitchell more money than Indiana can. They can offer Sophie Cunningham a fresh start with a bigger role and a bigger paycheck. They can target all the players that contending teams cannot afford to keep. And that is exactly what is going to happen. Mark my words. The expansion draft and free agency period is going to gut some very good teams, and the Fever are right at the top of that list. I want you to understand something. I am not saying Caitlin Clark is going to leave Indiana. She is locked in on her rookie deal. She is not going anywhere right now. But the players around her, the supporting cast that every star needs to win, that is what is at risk. You cannot win a championship with 2 players and 10 minimum salary role players. You just cannot. Basketball does not work that way. You need depth, you need veterans, you need shooters and defenders and playmakers at every position. And the CBA just made it 10 times harder to build that kind of roster. Let me put it to you this way. If the Fever keep Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and both of those players are making significant money, you are probably looking at $3 million or more on 2 players. That leaves you $4 million for 10 more roster spots. And remember, 2 of those are developmental spots that do not count, so really it is $4 million for 8 players. That is $500,000 per player on average. $500,000 is not going to get you Kelsey Mitchell. It is not going to get you Sophie Cunningham. It is not going to get you the kind of players you need to compete for a championship. So what do? You fill the roster with young, unproven players and hope they develop. You take chances on overseas players who have never played in the WNBA. You hope that your scouting department can find diamonds in the rough. And maybe they will. Maybe the Fever's front office is smart enough to navigate this minefield. But why should they have to? Why should the team that has done more to grow this league than anyone else over the last 2 years be the team that gets punished the hardest by the new financial structure? That is the question that I cannot get past. That is the question that keeps me up at night. Because when I look at this CBA, when I really study the numbers and think about who it helps and who it hurts, it feels like the teams that are built around young ascending talent got the short end of the stick. The teams that already have their stars locked in on legacy deals have a window. But teams like Indiana that are right in the middle of building something, teams that need to re-sign free agents and retain their core, those are the teams that are going to suffer. And the crazy thing is that the Fever's success is what made this new CBA possible in the first place. Caitlin Clark brought the ratings. Caitlin Clark brought the sponsorship dollars. Caitlin Clark brought the national attention that gave the players' union the leverage to negotiate a better deal. And now the deal that her popularity helped create might be the very thing that prevents her team from building a winner around her. If that is not the most frustrating irony in sports, I do not know what is. So where do we go from here? Look, I am not saying the sky is falling. I am not saying the Fever are doomed forever. I am saying that this is going to be incredibly difficult, and the fans deserve to know that. The fans deserve to understand why their favorite players might not be coming back. The fans deserve to know that this is not about the Fever being cheap or not caring. This is about a salary cap structure that puts teams in an impossible position. And the fans deserve to be angry about it. You should be angry about it. Because this is not how it is supposed to work. The team that puts in the work, the team that drafts well, the team that develops talent, that team should be rewarded, not punished. I think the WNBA needs to take a long, hard look at what this CBA is going to do to competitive balance over the next few years. Because if the end result is that every good team gets picked apart by expansion franchises and cap constraints, then nobody wins. Not the players, not the teams, not the fans, and certainly not the league that just spent the last 2 years telling the world that women's basketball has never been bigger. Look, I want to be clear about one more thing. I am not blaming the players for wanting to get paid. Breanna Stewart deserves every dollar. Sabrina Ionescu deserves every dollar. Kelsey Mitchell deserves every dollar. Caitlin Clark deserves every dollar. They all do. The issue is not player salaries. The issue is how the cap is structured relative to those salaries. When your supermax takes up 20% of the cap instead of 16.5%, that extra 3.5% matters. It matters enormously. It is the difference between keeping your third star and losing her. It is the difference between a championship contender and a team that is one player short. The Fever are standing at a crossroads right now, and the road they take is going to define this franchise for the next decade. Do they pay Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and let everyone else walk? Do they try to get creative with extensions and multi-year deals and hope the cap goes up in future years? Do they make a trade to clear cap space and hope they can reload through the draft? There are no easy answers, and that is what makes this so maddening. The Fever did everything right. They tanked responsibly. They got the #1 pick. They drafted the most transformative player in the history of women's basketball. And now the system is telling them that doing everything right is not enough. You still have to choose. You still have to sacrifice. You still have to lose good players because the math does not add up. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? Is that the Fever cannot even plan long-term right now because nobody knows if the cap will go up significantly in future years. Nobody knows if there will be adjustments. Nobody knows if the league will look at what is happening and say, hey, maybe we need to tweak this thing. All the Fever can do is play the hand they have been dealt. And right now that hand looks pretty rough. Let me also say this because it needs to be said. The players who leave Indiana, if they do leave, it is not their fault either. Do not go after Kelsey Mitchell if she signs with Chicago. Do not go after Sophie Cunningham if she signs with an expansion team. These women are doing what is best for their careers and their families. They deserve to get paid the maximum amount that the market will give them. The frustration should not be directed at any individual player. The frustration should be directed at a system that puts everyone in this position. A system where the team that revitalized the entire league cannot afford to keep its own players together. That is a systemic failure. That is a design flaw, and it needs to be talked about loudly and publicly until something changes. I am fired up about this. I know you are fired up about this. This is the kind of situation that separates real fans from casual observers. Real fans pay attention to the business side. Real fans understand that championships are not just won on the court. They are won in the front office. They are won in salary cap negotiations. They are won by teams that can navigate the financial landscape and keep their core together. And right now, the financial landscape of the WNBA is a minefield for the Indiana Fever. And I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to hit that like button. I need you to subscribe to this channel. I need you to share this video with every Fever fan you know, with every WNBA fan you know, with every person who cares about the future of women's basketball. Because this conversation needs to be louder. People need to understand what is happening. The fans need to demand better. The league needs to hear from us. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Tell me what you think the Fever should do. Tell me who they should keep and who they should let go. Tell me if you think this CBA is fair or if you think it needs to be reworked. I read every single comment and I want to hear from you. Until next time, this has been Black and White Sports. Peace, I am out.